go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
Matt Williams got a brilliant start from the third row of the grid.
He's gone, he's hit him, he's straight off at the chase.
And a half-second lead. Oh, with the sizzling car in the background.
He has it. Oh, he's round on the last lap.
There's a massive accident.
Next to the inside, what a move, what a move.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to The Mountain, Mount Panorama, round 12 of the AMS Oz Super 2 season for 2019. It's the one they all want to win, but the winning part doesn't come until next week. Tonight, it's all about where you start the race. It's qualifying night here at Mount Panorama. Steve DeVries is my name, back in the chair for some AMS Oz Super 2, and very happy to welcome back to the mic Hans Brunswick. Hans, it's been a while since we shared a box, and glad to have you back, mate.
Oh, thanks, Stephen. Thank you very much. It's great to be back, and to anyone who's watching, wherever you may be in the world or whatever time that you may be watching, it's great to be at the Mount Panorama circuit for the qualifying and top 10 shootout tonight. It's going to be good fun, Stephen.
Yeah, certainly is. It's a bit of an unusual sort of thing that the drivers are going to be experiencing tonight. It's normally in the Super 2 we have the qualifying and we have the race all in the one night. Because this is the only endurance race of the season, the 300 kilometre endurance race to take place next week, it's a little bit different. So the schedule looks a little something like this. So tonight, there we are, Thursday the 10th of October. We've got a 1 hour practice session that's about 11 and a half minutes away from being finished. The last 5 minutes of that will be dedicated to the driver's briefing. And then we'll get into a 20-minute qualifying session. So again, a little bit different to what some drivers are used to. We normally get a 2 flying lap encounter, so the drivers will go out. On an out lap, they do 2 laps, or maximum of 2 laps, then they come in. Tonight, it's an unlimited 20-minute qualifying session. And then after that, we will take the top 10 through to another qualifying session to determine the top 10 for the race, which, as you can see there, will take place next week. This time next week, Thursday, the 17th of October. And it's a 300-kilometre race, 49 laps. Actually, believe it or not, slightly longer than the race that the drivers in the Gfinity Supercars E-Series did a little bit early this week. They did 41 laps, that equated to 250 kilometres there or thereabouts. We're going to do an extra 8 laps on top of that to take us up to 300. So this is the furthest distance that we will travel in all of the races across this season, Hans. So a little bit of a different mindset perhaps for some of these drivers coming in tonight. What do you think?
I reckon when it comes to the racing, as far as the racing goes, 49 laps, 300 kilometres, it's pretty much a little bit less than twice over the longest races we've had so far in the season. So considering it's just a little bit less than 2 times the feature race format, it's going to be interesting to see which of the drivers can actually get comfortable and keep a good race pace for the duration of the race. And unfortunately for those people, if you're half a second back, over 49 laps, that's going to be quite a deficit at the end. So it's important to be able to keep a constant race pace and to keep that up, lap in, lap out, and manage all that comes with it.
Absolutely right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the season itself, because as well as it being an endurance race, it still attracts the maximum points for same as a longer distance feature race. So we have 2 races here in AMS Oz. We have the sprint race format, which we don't have any more left. That was 150 points a race, so maximum 300 points in a night, given there were 2 races. There's the feature length races, which ran a single race in a night, and that was a 300 point or payday for the winner of that. It's the same tonight, or for next week rather, a 300 point payday to the winner of this race. So in terms of the championship points, we're going to take a look at this point standings now. Now, the big number that stands out there is not the one on the very top for Phil Boak, it's the one behind for Brenton Foley, the 7 wins, but for him, the problem is he's had a couple of DNFs and some other issues along the way that have put him slightly less than 200 points back of his teammates. So it's not over yet, but the last race or two, Will Devonish has really closed that margin down. So there's not a lot in there. There's only 63 points there. The gap opens up when you start getting back towards to Mitchell Hathaway in fourth place, but there's some really tight tussles in there as well. So Turmo and Cam Rutledge, that's a really close battle to keep an eye on. So too Steve Burko and Brennan Ross. Those guys racing multiple series this year. Actually, in fact, a number of drivers on this list racing multiple series this year as well. So having to split their duties between the likes of Supercars, GT3 and TCR. Now, Ricky Slick's in there as well, despite the fact that he's no longer a part of the series, and so too JP Courier down there at the bottom, no longer taking part in the series, but still in the top 12 rather, and a couple of drivers still behind him that if they can just continue to pick up some points, they'll eventually displace him in the top 12 on the standings there. Fair to say, Hans, the PBF race engineering cars are probably the favourites for the front row tonight.
Yeah, definitely the PBF cars. They've been the class of the field when it comes to outright speed in these qualifying sessions. However, consistency hasn't been Brenton Foley's strong suit. I mean, he's got 7 wins, but unfortunately, DNFs in the early part of the season really put him behind the 8 ball, and so to speak, he's like you said, just under 200 points back from his teammate. So the important thing is with these feature length races, there's only one race per Thursday night. So it's absolutely essential that you finish. Whatever you do not DNF. Get out there and get some points, because it might make the difference in the championship.
Yeah, absolutely right. We look at Brenton Foley on the list here. His problems have stemmed from a DNF in the second race at Calder Park, and then disconnects first race in Adelaide, and then the first race of the double race, sprint race at the Albert Park Grand Prix circuit. So that's where his problems have been. Outside of that, he's been on the podium just about every race except for a 6th place at Winton in race 1 and a 6th place at Queensland Raceway in race 2. His teammate, by contrast, has had a fair, as I don't know, had the one DNF. He's been off the podium quite a few more times, but yet it's still only 171 points, the margin between the two of them. Race info for tonight? Well, what do we say? There is only one word to describe this place, and that is epic in my book. It's a fantastic track to be at. I've been there for the Bathurst 12 hour. You have no idea how much the elevation changes here. You just stand up atop the mountain, you can see it all falling out below you. It is a fantastic place to be. It's the 6.213 kilometre, 23 turn Mount Panorama motor racing circuit. So there's the format for tonight. The 20-minute qualifying session, the top 10 shootout to follow. Hans, there are 3 big items here. The big commitment across the top. The time across the top is there to be gained for the brave. If you have got a car that is really hooked up and can really flow those corners and attack those corners across the top of the mountain, you are going to gain some time. The big top speeds at the bottom end of Conrod Straight and down through towards the big braking zone at the Chase. You get a good exit out of the elbow, you maximise your chances of getting close to that magical 300 kilometre an hour marker on the run down to the Chase. And the other big thing is the severity of mistakes. No matter how minor a mistake is around this place, it can lead to an excessive loss of time. So even just stepping out of the tram tracks at places through like the Cutting, Reed Park, Sulman Park, you get offline there even by a foot, and it just upsets your car balance for the whole sequence of corners, and it takes a lot of effort to gain that time back.
Important to note that it's also very difficult to go across the top 2 wide in a lot of those places, so everyone's got to be careful. They've got to have their wits about them and not try and pass each other in ridiculous places on the circuit. But every good racetrack, every of the best racetracks in the world, they have consequences, and this place has plenty of them. There are walls, concrete walls, Armco fences all waiting for you, sand traps. They're all waiting for you, trying to grab your car and put you out of the race. So, and also in qualifying, it's particularly relevant that if you make a mistake, it's going to be another like 4 or 5 Ks that you have to drive around, and another 2 minutes or so that you actually before you get another chance. And then if you stuff it up at the first corner again, well, 2 minutes later you go again, and it's. I mean, 20 minutes it probably isn't enough around this place, but that's part of the strategy.
Yeah, you're right. It's going to be a real killer if you make a mistake early in the lap, such as running wide at Hell Corner, running off and going through the gravel trap there and then having to get back on. You've just bled an awful lot of times. Also across the top of the mountain, if you put a foot wrong, you might lose a half a tenth, but it might be magnified if you get to the other end and you're already out of your rhythm. You might find that half a tenth becomes 2 tenths very, very quickly. So mistakes will be punished, no doubt. Now, there is another little item that we need to address in the room, and what we're going to do is see if we can pick up one of the drivers that may be out there on the circuit at the moment, and it looks like everybody has decided to retreat to the garages, but what we will do our best to do is see if we can actually bring you a little image and a little snippet of what we're talking about here. We're just getting some cameras, some cameramen down in the pit lane to get into place here to see if we can get what we would like to see, and that's the Mustang.
Yes, the newly homologated Mustang for AMS Oz Super 2. Fantastic to see the Mustang out there, and great to see. I can't remember the name of the model maker actually, but he's done
Anthony
a fantastic
Birch.
job.
Anthony Birch has done a fantastic job.
Well done, mate. Fantastic work with the model, and it's going to be great to see the Mustang out and play tonight, and some of the new liveries out there to go with the Mustang, and I can see a couple of them already.
Yes, so we will get over to the session at the moment. So at the moment, driver's briefing is taking place. So as you see, as we'll just fly past, we're looking there. It is the one of the Mustangs there. That's the Zach Ross Mustang, just next door to one of the PBF race engineering cars. In actual fact, it's in the PBF garage. I'm not sure what's going on there. So that'll just be to do with how the session has been configured with the pit garages and the like. But nonetheless, big props to Anthony Birch. He's done a fantastic job with getting that mod into production. Of course, it's been a mod that was a private mod over at Automobilista Supercars for some time, but Anthony stuck his hand up and has done a fantastic job in modelling that car. So big thanks to you, mate. I'm sure he's at home watching the live stream at the moment with a big, big smile on his face, seeing these things go around for the very first time.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I always get a kick out when you see your work in action, I'm sure there's many of us that have done that over the years, but it's great. Anthony Birch, well done. It's just such a great model. I've followed the progress he's made with interest, and just he's been going from strength to strength with his model making. It's great.
Yeah,
well done.
He's made some really, really good stuff coming up as well. HQ Monaro, and also I think it's an XC Falcon Coupe I saw today. I'm pretty sure it's the XC. It might be the XB. I didn't quite read the post, but it looks like one or the other. But he's certainly got his creative juices flowing over there as Mr. Birch. Just as the time ticks off the last few seconds of this practice session, we've actually, believe it or not, got 20 cars sitting in the service, so it's a fantastic turnout. And actually Lewis Wedding there as well has making a special appearance in Super 2. We will cycle through and pick up the man who currently holds pole or fastest time at the moment, Brenton Foley, a 2:05.221. His quickest time so far in the practice session. And believe it or not, Hans, we did a little bit of practice in the ARW silly season a couple of weeks ago, and if the server had not have ticked over, he would have been into a 4. So it would have been an awesome lap for Foley to get into a 2:04. So that just gives you an idea of how quick he can go. And in actual fact, he already had a half a second on his teammate Phil Boak as well. So there is plenty of pace aboard that PBF Race Engineering VF Commodore.
Brenton Foley, probably the favourite to take pole tonight. He knows all about commitment and staying on the correct side of the ragged edge, and he squeezes the lemon, week in, week out with AMS Oz Super 2, and he just does a great job every time, and he's great to watch as well. The car's always squirming, and it's always out of control.
Yeah.
And it looks amazing, I think. So I might be a bit biased because I like seeing cars out of control, but he does a good job.
Yeah, he likes to get the back end out every now and again, Brenton Foley. Now, this will be a new challenge for these drivers. As we said, 20 minutes are on the clock, and normally in Super 2 we have sort of a trickle of cars will flow out to begin with, and then everybody sort of picks the time that they want to go out. Not this time. I get the impression that there will be a flurry of activity in the pit lane to start this qualifying session as soon as the green flag goes. And there it is. And we can already hear some cars firing. In actual fact, it's Lewis Wedding, if we can pick him up, and Lime Mitch. They're making some debut appearances. They're already on the move. So Lewis Wedding, actual fact, is already on circuit. If we can pick him up, there he is. The Himbury Repsol Motorsport. Normally a familiar livery or a familiar car for him is the loose SimSport Nissan GTR in the GT3 competition. But switching over to an FGX Falcon for his assault on Mount Panorama. Actually, looks quite nice, that livery. I don't mind it at all.
Yeah, I think it actually looks really good. It's very reminiscent of the HRC MotoGP bikes, which is always nice to see. Iconic livery, the Repsol colours, and he's got a bit of Red Bull on there as well. So the thing's going to be like a rocket. Oh, there we go. He gets a bit sliding out there. So he's on it already, trying to warm the tyres up.
Yeah, not wasting any time. He's not mucking around. Actual fact, Dwayne Davies, D2 in the AMS Oz TCR, runs a livery with the Repsol HRC livery. It looks really, really great aboard his Ford Focus in the TCR series.
Actually, I've noticed something on the back of Lewis Wedding's car. There's little chopped fingers, the Mighty Car Mods chopped fingers. So let's see if Lewis can chop a few people tonight.
Well, he's carrying the familiar 89 that he carries in all the series that he runs here in AMS Oz, so hopefully 89 is a lucky number for him. I didn't quite see what he had done in the practice session. We might go and have a look and see if we can find what his result was. But for the moment, he is the pioneer out there on the circuit at the moment. He's the one that they'll all want to benchmark themselves against to begin with, and it looks like we've got about 2/3 of the field finding their way in various stages across the top of the mountain. Lewis very loose out of the second to last corner, and he's going to come down to the final corner and cross the line to start the flying laps here at Mount Panorama. Hans, let's have a look at this circuit.
Oh boy, what a circuit this is. So fourth gear up into the main straight now, and then into Hell Corner. Hell Corner so named because it's all hell when you get it wrong. And then he's up from second gear into third. Now fourth gear, he'll pluck here, and he's got the lights on. So he's starting his first flying lap, and up through Mountain Straight, very steep hill. And then he's kept it on the left side of the road, so it's a bit easier on the car there. And then back down from fifth gear into third gear, or second gear, actually sometimes they use around here. And he gets a bit sliding there, so he's about to go over the curb. And then up now, the run into the cutting. So back to second gear now. And a bit wide there from the apex, but that's all right. He goes through the middle of the road, bit of track sacrifice there. And he's trying to use every millimetre of road. He's trying to avoid that little bump on the exit, and gets onto the curb at just over the rise at Reed Park. So there you go.
Real rub of the wall there too.
So probably not aiming at the grate too much. So yeah, a bit of rub on the wall. Yeah, the damage looks quite bad, Stephen.
Well, very wide at McPhillamy Park as well as he came across the top too. The car definitely didn't want to turn, did not meet the apex. He was well clear of it. And the back's very loose.
Yeah, he's gone. So that's that lap done. So unfortunately, he has to come around again. Hopefully there's not too much damage on the car. It's merely cosmetic.
Well, he was a 51.633 to the first sector, which is purple at the minute. The only other men to go through at the moment is Lime Mitch in a 52.0 and Brendan Ross in a 51.97. So his sector 1 benchmark is still pretty good, although he has registered a purple sector through sector 2, but that's because he is the first man out there at the moment. So, of course, that is the fastest marker until someone else eclipses it. We'll still stay with him. He's pressed on with the lap, but at least he's got to put something on the table. I guess it's better off you finish it, you put something down rather than nothing, Hans. Otherwise, you may not get another opportunity to put something down.
Yeah, absolutely right, Steve. He needs to press on with it because there might be a few other people making mistakes. So he gets over the curb there. 2:07.827 to open up the lap times in qualifying. And that's our top lap at the moment. First lap, here we go. Brenton Foley's out of control, coming down Skyline and yellow flag. So
he's gone around.
There you go.
Well, there we go. That is a very, very rare mistake. But why am I not surprised? Sometimes with Brenton Foley, he probably just committed a little bit too hard. So
He
what happened
pushes the
here?
envelope, that's for sure.
Yep. So he used a lot of road there. Now, typically in a real supercar world, you don't need to use all that road coming over Skyline, but he just carried way too much speed.
Oh, he didn't get the
Kept it
fence,
out of the
actually,
wall
so that's
though.
not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not too bad. Usually when that happens, you're certainly going to end up in the fence. So now he's just a bruised ego, and off he goes again. So maybe those tyres aren't looking too good either. So you might need to get some new tyres. But otherwise, we should see a good lap from Brenton Foley at some point tonight. We've got about 14 minutes and 40 seconds to go.
He was actually purple to the middle sector too. He had 51.03 as time
Oh,
started.
he's out of control
Yep.
coming into the chase, and he's going to bowl it
Yep.
wide here. Does he get the gravel? Yeah, he does a little bit, and he's off and running again. So that's the shortcut through there.
Well, he kind of knew what the limits were anyway, but I think as he's pushing them as hard as he can now, he knows that the lap is pretty much a throwaway lap.
But those tyres are dirty though for the next lap.
He was purple to the middle sector, as I was just saying, at 51.032. Mitch Hathaway held purple in the middle and the end sector. Foley actually was quick through the final sector, but given he did shortcut the circuit there as well, so probably not a fair comparison to make. Hathaway currently top 207.100, so we haven't gone into the sixes yet, but I expect we're probably not far away from landing a few sixes. There are some drivers currently out there setting some decent laps, as this is not one of them. This is Rhodey, and it looks like, he's gone and clouded one of the barriers. I don't know what's going on there. Maybe he's just getting out of the way of one of the Top Gear the Mustang GTs behind.
He got the fence there. Okay, so
Yeah.
he's just bailed out of that one. Steve Burko in other Top Gear Racing. I was about to say Falcon. It's actually a Mustang, which is great to see. It's basically a two-door Falcon FGX, but never mind that. No, it's a good-looking car.
He's about to start a flying lap too, so he's got the lights ablaze, warning the drivers ahead. I'm about to start a flying lap, so get out of my way. There's a couple of other drivers starting to come to the line. Cam Rutledge has just exited Forest Elbow. Phil Boak now goes top. We're actually into the fives. We've skipped the sixes entirely. Phil Boak has just landed a 205.356, so already the benchmark is being lowered and lowered quickly. Devonish, his first flying lap, 1.5 seconds in arrears, but I take it that
206.8. That's pretty good.
that's
though.
actually pretty decent, but it's probably just an early banker lap as well. Again, put something on the table. You've got 20 minutes to get your best time on the board, but you've got to start somewhere, because if others start to continue to make these mistakes, then you are going to find yourself, you might be actually in the shootout.
Here we go. Phil Boak, lights ablaze. He's coming out of the cutting, and he's on the rise up through the mountain. He's going to come to the first sector split point right here. Let's see what the time is. Oh, he gets the wall just a little bit there. So he's about a second down on his previous best time. And he gets the wall there as well, actually.
Yeah, so he's had 2 bites on the wall here. Is he going to have a third somewhere? No, he actually turns in super early for McPhillamy. He's got 2 wheels in the dirt, but he's got a car ahead of him as well. Now, is that Steve Burko just ahead of him? It's one of the FGX Falcons. I'm looking to see which one it is at the moment. It is Steve Burko that is ahead on the timing map. So he's on a flying lap, so he's not obligated to get out of the way here. But he's probably going to be just close enough to Boak, who's a little bit wide at the elbow. He may get a little bit of draft assistance down here, but he's already 1.3 seconds behind his own marker, so he's not really troubling. And he's completely backed out of it. So Foley went in with a 205.9 on that next flying lap of his after he went through the grass. Devonish immediately splits the pair. So Devonish actually goes only a 1/10.5 slower than Phil Boak. So
that's a reasonable lap time, actually, 205.5.
Well, that is a very, very reasonable time, and it's the first of the ZV Commodores as Boak is trundles into the pit lane here. Let's see who else has not set any time. So we got.
Oh, he's about to spin on the pit lane entry. That would have been amusing. Not for him, though, but for us.
Oh.
So here we go, Zach Ross. Oh, he's off the road at Hell Corner. Like we said, get it all wrong, it's hell for you. So another of the Ford Mustangs, newly homologated for the AMS Oz Super 2 Series.
His teammates just on the road behind him as well, and just passing, I believe that is the car of Matt Williams. As I look a bit further down.
Toro Rosso?
Yeah, the Toro Rosso lookalike livery. It's actually, it looks like it might be Greg Nangle, actually, that one there. I was just looking at our time
73,
screens.
is it? 73, yeah.
Yep, correct.
There we go, Greg Nangle. Oh, and he's in the fence as well.
Yep,
so
it's great to see Greg Nangle back as well, of course. Greg Nangle with a famous victory at Monza in the GT3 series early this year as well, in a one-lap sprint to the finish. Here's another one of the Mustangs, the JPS liveried entry belonging to Dwayne Davies. So another one of the drivers to take the liberties of converting from the FGX Falcon to the Mustang in between the last race and this week. So great to see looking.
Good looking livery, isn't it?
It looks absolutely stellar on that car. Actually, the black does the body lines quite due diligence and some justice there. His opening salvo is a 2:10.0. So maybe just building up a little bit here. At the moment, at least, he's the last man in the 10. So as it stands, with about half of this qualifying session gone, as it looks like that's actually that's Brenton Foley coming. I think Devonish now top. Devonish immediately goes to top, so he's very, very close to a 4. He's going to 2:05.039. That's achingly close to a 4. He will be, I wouldn't say be seething under the bonnet. He will be snapping his fingers going, I know there's another 10th in my time somewhere. I know I can find it. But you don't want to do your best Hollywood laps now. You want to save them till you get to the next session.
Yeah, Devonish, fantastic effort there. So he's 2:05.039. He's just ever so close to the 2-minute 4 bracket. And look at that early apex there into the cutting. Bit of slide coming out. And he's making the rise up to the top of the mountain. And he's going into the first sector split, nearly into the wall there, but didn't quite get it. And he's only 2/10 of a second, 2.5 of a second behind his best split. But let's see if he can get that through the top of the mountain with commitment. Look at that. And he's just using every little millimetre of road, but not anymore. And now he's coming down through Skyline. Bit of a lock break there. Hopefully he doesn't take him offline. And then into the...
There's a tyre going there.
Yeah, so someone's had a big one somewhere. Sliding coming out of the dipper. And then now into Forest Elbow. Bit of lock break there, down to second. And a bit too early of an apex there, but he managed to get it back in.
Found some time, though.
Found some time, yeah, really good. So he found 1/10 of a second, in the top section. And here we go. He's got the lights on. He's warning the cars ahead of him that he is on a flyer.
Well, he decided to put those lights on late. I thought he was maybe just having a bit of a look to see what time he was going to do when he got to the elbow. There was a lot of lock brakes there and looked like the car was understeering a bit, but he's going to press on with the time, maybe see if he can find something in this final sector. He was purple to the middle sector and to the last sector on his last flying lap. He's purpled the middle sector this time around. We have seen quicker in the first sector. It was a 51.1 to, I think we've seen a high 50.9. Oh, very loose.
Oh, he lost a bit of time there.
Did that cost him the run to the line to get the 4? We'll never know about that one.
I thought into the chase it looked quite clean, but maybe it wasn't quite as quick as we thought. Here we go, Lime Mitch, he's coming into the chase now. Big commitment on the brakes. Car squirming a little bit, ever so slightly as tram lining around. Manages to get it in. Bit of slide there. And now the change up from second into third.
This is one of the drivers yet to set a time in this session. And the only other two, Rhodey and Glenn Miles, who I believe are actually sharing a car. So there is, as Lime Mitch goes P5, that's a very, very good effort. There is an option here, Hans, for the season, in the season for this race and this race only. You can elect to share the drive if you want to, and I believe that's precisely what Rhodey and Glenn Miles are doing. So even though it says there's 18 drivers in the server, that is only 17 because of the car that's being shared by Rhodey and Miles.
Yeah, what I don't understand, Steve, is where is the hot swap function in Automobilista?
Well, that's a very good question. That actually does exist. Myself and Stairs actually put together a little bit of a video. Stairs put it together with some assistance from me with doing the driver swaps a couple of weeks ago for ASC. And basically, you can ride as a passenger with the car. You then tell the driver then, when he comes in for a pit stop, can select if he wants to change the driver or not, and then during the pit stop the new driver takes over.
Clear as mud, Stephen.
Pretty easy.
But it makes sense. It'll make sense for Rhodey and Glenn Miles too, because they have to make the.
They have to make it work.
So,
they've got to make.
So they've elected to make the driver change, and hopefully it works out for them. But here we go. Lime Mitch, he grazes the wall there. He takes out our camera, and he manages to get through the dipper there. And onto the Forest Elbow now.
Got the Zach Ross.
A lot of people are going to the middle of the road there. They're not quite hugging that outside wall as I would have thought.
I think a lot of people are trying to be a little bit greedy here at Forest's Elbow. They're probably just trying to carry a bit too much speed through and brake as late as possible. In the real world supercars, you want to be braking before you make the right-hand turn, before you set yourself up for coming down Forest Elbow, because you don't want to be braking coming down that chute, that little hill. Otherwise, you're just going to understeer straight on into the fence at Forest's Elbow. So you want to get most of your braking done and arrest most of your speed. And speaking of arresting speed, the gravel trap was doing just that until that moment. So
it's interesting, going into the Forest Elbow. In real life, you would ordinarily hug the outside wall. So you're going to the right, you straighten up the car, then cleaning off the brakes ever so gently. I've never driven Mount Panorama before, but watching Mark Scaife and Neil Crompton talk about it, I should be right. And then you're trying to get the maximum velocity down Conrad Straight. So it's all about taking a late apex. And unfortunately, I don't think there are many people taking late apexes right now. They're getting a bit hungry early on in the corner.
No, you're absolutely right. The Scuderia Alitalia entry there behind. I'm just trying to work out actually who drives the Mike Coulston car, driving that this week. And now finally Rhodey has set a time. So all of the drivers that are on the circuit have set a time, which is great to see.
This car looks really good, doesn't it? Yeah. It looks really nice with the teal blue and the red.
Yep, it's a combination of the Spitwater Cleaners Nissan Altima and Rhodey's PBF Academy car. So it actually has turned up quite nice, but it's great to see. Lewis Wedding now moves up to 4th place on the road, so he's just banked a 2:06.35. We've got 3 3/4 minutes left. So if you're not getting out onto the circuit in the next sort of 30 seconds or so, you are not going to have enough time to get another lap in here. As Rhodey makes a bit of a mess of it through the cutting. And he's got the Coulston car behind, so at the moment that's all okay. That's the Glenn Miles car in the pit lane, of course, watching on as Rhodey elects to qualify the car. I'm not sure if they drew straws or not to work out who was qualifying the car.
I think he drew the short straw on that one. I would wager a bet and say that. I'm not a betting man, I hasten to add, but I would wager that.
Well, I'm not so much of a gambling man, but if you are, I'll take your word for it. Devonish 3/10 down. Oh, there's a spin. That's for the
spinning. Is that D2?
Yeah, no, that's the Mustang. That's the Lime Mitch Mustang down there at Forest Elbow. So
it's a FGX Falcon, actually.
The FGX Falcon. Let's just have a look and see how he got that done. He probably just picked up the power a little bit too early, I think. Again, as we were saying before, a few drivers starting to get a little bit greedy down here at Forest Elbow. Yes, he committed and he was looking for it and actually got the wall.
Yeah, got the inside wall, so it's rotated the car around in combination with picking up the throttle. So not ideal for Lime Mitch. That's probably I don't think he's going to get another lap in actually. So it's too little, too late for Mitch. Unfortunately, 2 minutes 22 to go. He's not going to get to the line in time.
Oh, he'll get to the line in time to start one more lap if the car's straight.
Oh, sorry. I apologise. I think he's only going to get one lap in.
Get one
and
more
not
lap.
2 laps. There we go. I figured out. I got my abacus out and counted all my seconds correctly. Here we go.
Some of the drivers that are just crossing the line at the moment are the ones that are going to only get one more crack at this cherry. So that's the likes of Phil Boak has just gone across, Cam Rutledge, 10th place man Dwayne Davies, and then you get Brenton Foley, who's currently sitting in 3rd. Well, I mean, he's probably pretty safe. I think the top 4 or 5 guys, I would say, are safe at the moment. So definitely the guys in the 5s. So Devonish, Boak and Foley are all in the 5s. They're probably safe. Wedding on a 206.3. Brennan Ross on a 206.4, I think, are safe. From there on back, you got Mitch Hathaway at 206.7. Lime Mitch, the 206.9. Zach Ross, we've got to differentiate here, at 207.6. Nangle at 207.7 and Dwayne Davies at 207.8, and there's a 207.9 from Termo outside the 8, outside the 10 rather. So he's the one that we probably want to take a look at and see if we can find where he is at the moment. Here he is, the Nissan Altima, down Conrod Straight at the moment. Now, how's he tracking? He's done a 51.962 to Sector 1, but he didn't register a Sector 2 time, so he's got a track violation somewhere over the top. Probably got a little bit, again, greedy on some curbs or run a little bit wide. So this is going to be his last attempt to break into the 10.
So he's coming into Murray's corner now, the final corner, 23 of 23. Here we go. Turmo over the line. Oh, not quite yet. Here we go. He's got a 2:08.18, and that actually registered the time. So
Yes, that's a strange. A live race is not giving up here. Now, Dwayne Davies has actually gone into the pit lane, so he thinks that he is safe with the 10th place at the moment, and he's the last man in the 10. So let's go a bit further afield. Let's have a look at where they all went across the line. So Devonish will get one more lap. So he's through now. Brenton Foley's the next man to come across. He's got one more lap to go. Now, behind them is the 13th man of Cam Rutledge. Or he might just be lucky to get another one if he can get there in time. 3, 2, 1. He's going to get one more lap. Very lucky boy. All right, 8th place man, Zach Ross, stays 8th. He didn't get another lap in, so that's curtains for him. Behind him, it is the 5th place car currently of Brendan Ross, who I said was safe, and he wasn't that far off his own PB, 3/10 off, so he stays where he is. Lime Mitch stays where he is, doesn't improve, so he stays 7th in the shootout. Next man to cross the line is Greg Nangle. Here he comes down through the chase.
Gee, that car looks good, doesn't it? And he's
Oh.
locked the brake though, so it's put him well wide.
So 51.9 to the first sector, 35.2 to the middle sector. So pretty respectable sector times for Greg Nangle. Currently P9.
I believe he's sharing the car with Matt Williams as well.
Possibly right there. And he wasn't that far off his own PB. So stays 9th. Next man to cross the line is the 4th place car. So that's Lewis Wedding. So again, a man who was already safe. And Turmo hasn't given up the ghost just yet, so he's still out there on the circuit, but everyone there on back has realised that they're going to have to exit the server here, and they are. So Wedding is safe, and does he improve? Yes, he does. 0.3 of a second. Good job. So nearly into the 5s himself.
Would have been great to see him into the 5s, but he's on the cusp of it, so great to see. Turmo, let's see if he can get into the top 10. Here's Dwayne Davies safe. Into Murray's corner now. Looking pretty clean. Takes a bit of curb. Straightens it up.
He's got it. He's got it.
He's in. So he's in the top 10. And that pushes out Dwayne Davies. So Dwayne Davies out of the top 10 into 11th. And that moves Turmo into 8th. Zach Ross 9th. And Greg Nangle into 10th. Now, what about Will Devonish? Can he improve on his lap time? Let's see. Final roll of the dice. Yes, he does. 2:04.814. Fantastic from Will Devonish.
Lays down a very, very late marker, and behind him it's Phil Boak, who just decides to exit. Actually, Foley went P2. It was Foley we were looking for, who went P2 at the end of all of that. So that's a pretty handy marker. Only one man getting into the 2-minute 4s in the qualifying session. So not a bad run from Will Devonish at all. So he lays down that marker. But we did call it. We did say that Turmo was going to go again. Dwayne Davies put the cue in the rack just a little bit too early, and Turmo has pounced.
Yeah, fantastic to see. It was a bloody good effort. He got it in just in the nick of time. Well done to Turmo, but unfortunately Dwayne Davies ever so close to getting into the top 10 shootout. He would have been the first car out, but now we've got the first car out. Who is the first car out? It's actually Greg Nangle. So Greg Nangle will open it for FCR Motorsport in the top 10 shootout.
Yep, so we're just going to take a little bit of a moment here just to wait for the server to be reset, because of course it's ticked over into a warm-up session. And we're just going to have to just wait for them to get themselves in order before they go out for the shootout. So going to be 10 cars remaining, and at this stage it looks like we are going to have, the way this is going to work, just for the viewers at home, is we do have a car controller. So we suspected that this would happen with Rhodey being down the back of the grid, so he's volunteered to be the car controller, and just to make sure that the cars that go out onto the circuit are the cars that go out onto the circuit, and that they go out at the appropriate time, and they will then be released out, just to make sure so everybody's got the mountain to themselves for the time they need it, and we all keep ticking along quite nicely. So we'll just wait for just a little bit, and we actually might take this opportunity to take a short break, and we'll be back when the server is ready to go for the shootout. Welcome back, everybody. You are watching the qualifying session and top 10 shootout for the AMS Oz Super 2 race next week around the Mount Panorama Motor Racing Circuit. The qualifying session is over and done with, and we are about to get the top 10 shootout underway. And we're just waiting on a couple of minor things with the server to be sorted, and then we will be right to go. So, Hans, let's sum up what we saw in the 20-minute qualifying session. Pretty tense battle, and a late move there from Termo, knocking out Dwayne Davies.
Yeah, so Dwayne Davies, he actually pulled into the pit lane and he said, "Oh, I'm safe, everyone. So let's just we'll take it out now." So Termo, he managed to get in with about 4 seconds remaining on the clock, and he managed to get another lap, and he got into 8th position. So that knocked Dwayne Davies out. D2, he's no longer in the top 10 shootout, and our first car we'll be waiting for is Greg Nangle. So in order, we'll be going Greg Nangle first, then Zach Ross, Termo, Lime Mitch Hathaway, Brendan Ross, Lewis Wedding, Philip Boak, Brenton Foley, and Will Devonish. Will Devonish, the only car into the fours in the qualifying session with 2:04.814, and closely followed by Brenton Foley, who was on for a 2-minute 4, but unfortunately he didn't quite stitch the lap together. But he's up there with a 2-minute 5.043, and Philip Boak with a 2-minute 5.356. So those are the top 3 cars. Then Lewis Wedding is 2:06.018, a very reasonable lap time, and another 4/10 or so back to Brendan Ross in 5th. So he's in the, sorry, I was about to say he's in the Mustang. No, he's not. He's in a Commodore. So Zach Ross is in a Mustang, and Brendan Ross, we have to figure out how we're going to differentiate them. But yeah, reasonable effort from the top 5. The times are looking pretty good, Stephen.
Yeah, they look pretty decent, the top 5, and Wedding, of course, very, very close to joining them in the 5s. And don't rule him out either. He's definitely going to be one that we will keep an eye on. As we said before, making a special one-off appearance in the series tonight and for the race tomorrow, race next week, obviously. So don't rule him out, especially after what he does in GT3.
He's a bit of a GT3 specialist, actually, so he does a good job. But a bit of a different car, and we've seen him before, actually. We've seen him before in Super 2, and he's done a really good job. So Lewis Wedding is always there or thereabouts. He does a good job with AMS Oz cars. He drives a variety of cars, and he always does a fantastic job. But provisional pole honours goes to Will Devonish at the moment, so let's see if he can manage to get that at the end of the weekend. Our lollipop man at the end of pit lane will be Benjamin Rhodes. And he's got a nice sign that says red or green, stop or go. And we'll hopefully see some nice 11s being left out of pit lane. You've got to warm up those tyres, eh, Steve?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the drivers attack their outlap as well. Now, the rule's going to be the driver on their fast lap will commence their fast lap when they get to the first sector split, which is just out of Reed Park. The car controller will release the car onto the next car out onto the circuit to commence their warm-up, and we will continue in that fashion until all 10 cars have set a time. So the timing has just commenced for this practice session. So the session, I believe it's just ticked over now. We're just waiting to get confirmation of that, and it looks like that is the case. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. First time we are going to undertake a top 10 shootout this year in AMS Oz. And the first man out is Greg Nangle. And as you said, Hans, there is the top 10 shootout order on your screen as Greg Nangle takes it out on this outlap. So we will start with Greg Nangle, the VF Commodore for FCR Motorsport, making an appearance in Super 2, sharing with Matt Williams. Matt's elected to delegate qualifying duties for car number 33 to, I think it is, or car 33 to Greg Nangle for honours here. In actual fact, I think it might be 37. Zach Ross, he's the first and the only Ford Mustang in the top 10. Likewise, Termo, the only Nissan Altima inside the top 10. And they'll be second and third respectively. Lime Mitch is going to get the first of the FGX Falcons underway. He'll be the fourth man out. Mitchell Hathaway, the sole representative for HDS Racing, and the first of the ZB Commodores. We haven't seen Billy Dougal-Salonger for a little while. I'm not sure if he's sharing with Mitchell in this race, but we'll soon find out. Then gets the second of the FCR cars, Brennan Ross, Lewis Wedding, Phil Boak, Brenton Foley, and Will Devonish. So the heavy hitters will run out of positions 7, 8, 9 and 10 in this top 10 shootout, as Greg Nangle is just on his last flying lap, last of the warm-up laps at the moment, and it won't be too much longer before we get a time out of Greg.
So Greg Nangle, he's actually a bit of a GT3 specialist as well. He's done a good job. Like you said, he won in a thriller of a last lap battle at Monza in the GT3 Championship. He actually got into the top 10 shootout with a 2 minute 7.728, top speed of 294.1 k's an hour down Conrod. And here we go. We are starting his flying lap now. Top 10 shootout for Greg Nangle in the 373 FCR Motorsport. Comes around Murray's corner. Oh, a bit of a slide there. Here we go, up the main straight now. Time is ticking, Steve.
Yeah, certainly. Time is on the clock, or Greg Nangle is on the clock, as we should say. Through Hell Corner. Nice and tidy, uses all the exit curb, and now he begins his ascent of the mountain.
Here we go up through the gears now, trying to figure out where we're going to put on the brakes for turn 2, Griffin's Bend. You can really hook into the corner here because it's uphill. And here we go, late on the brakes. And he's managed to get the apex. Well done there. Does he go over the curb? No, he doesn't. He's kept a good line through there. Looking clean so far for Nangle. And up into the cutting now. So into the cutting, down to second gear. Oh, bit of a slide there, bit of lock brake. Let's see what sort of line he takes into the middle of the road. So he avoids that bump. And he's coming up through Sulman Park. And then up to the first sector split. What's the sector split? 52.047. Pretty reasonable effort from Greg Nangle so far. Down into the great section. Oh,
he's on two wheels. Wow.
What a moment.
That is going to be a hair-raising moment. You normally have two wheels off the deck through this section. He's about to enter right now, coming down the S's and through the dipper, but you don't want two wheels in the air coming through Reed and Sulman Park like that. He would have to get out of the power. He would have had to wait for all four wheels to get back on the deck before he could put the gas down again. Is that going to cost him? His first sector split was pretty reasonable. Looks pretty much on line at the elbow. Aside from the little two-wheel moment, it's not a bad run to the second sector split. So he's a 128 flat to the second sector. So a 36.0 through the middle. Of course, purple sectors for the moment, but this is what we spoke about. The magnitude of mistakes. Has that little two-wheel exercise cost him?
Here we go, down into the chase, down through the gears, 4 gears. Usually it's a second or third gear corner over the curb. And here we go, he's going up into turn 22, now turn 23.
Well, he's about to come down to the final corner on the circuit, and he will set the bar at probably around about a 2 minute 8.5, I'd say. It's a 2 minute 8.635, so not a bad effort to begin with. And it looks like he's about to join us on the horn now. So, Greg, have you got us?
Hello, Gregory.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, I got you. Sorry.
That's all right. It's Hans and Steve up here in the commentary box. And look, someone had to be first in the shootout. That somebody was you. A little bit of an interesting moment there across the top. Talk us through that two-wheel incident.
Yeah, I thought I was in the Tour de France there for a sec.
Saving a bit of rubber there, hey mate.
Yeah, not exactly what I had planned for the lap, but yeah, it's pretty intense. I've never done a top 10 shootout before, and I think I started 10th, and I'll probably finish off 10th.
You're not going anywhere backwards, mate. So that's a good effort. So
No.
did you actually get the wall in McPhillamy Park in the run there?
No, I didn't. I don't have a mark on the car. Amazingly, I thought it was all over, but it just sort of had to steer back towards the wall, and saved it.
Well, pull up a pew, mate, and you're going to have an awesome view of what's about to happen. Job well done. Zach Ross is on the move. He had a bit of a moment there at the final corner, Hans. Is that going to compromise his straightaway speed?
Well, it might, and he's actually made a meal of turn 1 as well, so he's taken a bit too much curb there. Hopefully it doesn't affect him. But let's see what it's like on the run into the first split. Now up Mountain Straight, very steep straight this one, and he's keeping it in the middle of the road so it's not too harsh on the car. If you keep it down the right side of the road, it's a little bit harsh. Here we go, down into the brakes now, braking area, into Griffin's Bend. And he manages to keep it tight on the apex of the corner and up into the cutting now. So here we go, turn 3 and turn 4.
Uses a bit more road this time around than what Nangle did, but he's very, very wide on the X of the cutting too. And again, magnitude of mistakes. That's going to cost him quite a bit of time as he comes through this little tricky section here. Get close to the wall. Don't get the wall, but you've got to get close to it. And he's already nearly 4.5 tenths down on the split, registered by Greg Nangle.
But let's see how his middle sector looks. It's pretty clean so far. A bit of a squirm there, but he's not actually gone onto 2 wheels like Greg Nangle did earlier. And now down into Skyline. Oh, a bit of a lock brake. It doesn't take the car offline. He manages to get it stopped. Takes a bit of curb there, down into the dipper. And now he's up through the gears now into 3rd gear. If it's on the rev limiter here, it's doing all right. And then let's see. Oh, a bit of lock brake, but he manages to get it onto the outside wall. And then nice late apex. Here we go. And he's up. He's up 2.5 tenths of a second on Nangle. So that moment for Nangle really hurt him. It's Zach Ross now. He's on his way to provisional pole position if he could keep it up through the chase.
Well, up and over the rise, under the Fuso truck sign. No squeezy from Mr. Sumo. Down into the chase. Car pulls up nice and straight. Actually turns it in a little bit early. Started to track toward the apex of the curb quite early. So could have stayed a little bit wider then just to get a little bit better purchase through the 22nd or 21st corner on this circuit. Now to turn 23. Murray's corner, the final one, using a lot of curb, it has to be said. What's the time? It's a 2:08.152. So he does go to provisional pole, purple through the middle and purple through the final sector. And he is just waiting to see if we can get him up here into the comm box, but it's taking a little bit of time to find him at the moment. Actually, I think Hans is having a little bit of a drama there. Looks like we might have him now. Zach, a little bit slower to the first sector there, mate, but you got the job done through the second 2 and the 3rd sector. No, having some.
Hello, Zachary. Have you got us?
I do, yes.
Now you got you. Okay, a little bit of a delay there. A little bit sluggish through sector 1, but you picked it up through sector 2 and sector 3.
Yeah, I've been having issues with the car locking up. So I flat spot the tyre when I started my lap, so it didn't really help.
Well, happy with the performance of where you are at the moment, I guess. There's still a long way to go in the shootout. Anything's possible, but your lap time to get in was a 2:07, and you've done a 2:08. So your time is about 7 tenths of a second from what you used to get in.
Okay, yeah. I know I can do better than that. I know I can get into the 2:06s, so yeah, not too happy with that. So.
All right.
Zach, it was a relatively clean lap though, so maybe you might make your way up through the field if anyone else has problems. So well done, mate.
Okay.
All right, pull up a pew, buddy. The Castrol Racing Nissan Altima of Termo is about to start his lap. Here he goes towards Hell Corner. Let's have a look and see what his lines are like. Oh, back end
slides it in.
Yeah, back end started to step out already. Entry oversteer on the Nissan Altima, but wasn't too bad. It looked like he got off turn 1 pretty well. So just a little lock up, maybe just help the car to rotate a little bit, just point it in the right direction. So he's able to get on the power a little bit early. Up and over the rise, under the Petters sign, down to Griffin's Bend. Let's have a look if it's online. Looks relatively good, tracking out quite nicely to the curb. Didn't go out as wide.
Yeah, so he's not using the curb to arrest the sideways movement of the car. Now into the cutting. Let's see how he goes. No lock brakes there, and he gets it online at the apex. Well done there. And he goes a little bit wider than Nangle did. And Ross, he's much cleaner than Ross there. So Termo, bit of a moment coming up into Sulman Park. Or Reed Park, Sulman Park, whichever it is. Here we go now into the great section.
Wow.
And he's up 51.8.
Check out the time from Termo. That is a very, very good time. It was a 51.6 that he did to the middle sector, so to the first sector, on his qualifying lap to get into the shootout, which incidentally was a 2-minute 7.573. So only 2 tenths away from his benchmark that he used to get in. That's pretty handy. So is a bit of a challenge here, Hans, to try and match your time to get into qualifying. You always want to beat it, no doubt, but if you can get close, it's still a pretty good marker. Let's have a look to the middle sector. What's he done here? He's lost a lot of time, so he's actually a 10th behind what the provisional pole time was. So the time comes up as a 36.0 to the middle sector, which he actually did a 35.6, so he's lost all that time. So we praised him, and all of a sudden he's just lost it all.
Yeah, so let's see how his exit was from Forest Elbow, because he didn't get the best line through there. It was a very early apex and it steered well by the ideal low. No curb at all into the chase, and he's coming up to Murray's corner now. Let's see if he can put it all together. He put it all together in the nick of time.
Well, through the final corner. Guess he get a good run out. It's going to be a 7.9, so he gets it by 2/10. So the bar steadily gets lowered and lowered and lowered some more, and it looks like we've got him as well. Hans, you got him on the line there?
Hello, Termo, are you there?
Might have to unmute himself there, I think.
Yes, I'm here.
All right, he's with Hans now.
Oh, well done, Termo. Very reasonable lap time, 2 minutes 7.94, but you did get in with a 2 minutes 7.57, so 0.4 of a second away. How did you feel?
No, I'm pleased I got in the shootout. That's all I can say.
It was a bloody good effort, actually. We were very excited over that, weren't we, Steve?
Yeah, we're very excited that you did a late lunge to get in and you just placed D2. Hans and I were commenting just before on the stream that it's difficult to try and replicate your lap time in the from qualifying to the shootout, but 0.4 away from what you used to get into the shootout is not a bad effort.
No, it's not.
Man of few words, isn't he?
A man of few words. Mr. Turbo, well done, mate. Congratulations, a good effort. Let's see if you can make your way up through the order from 8th.
Thank you.
Line Mitch now on the clock. Lock up into turn 1. Very similar to what Termo just did. Just got the back end. Wanted to step out a little bit, but got through turn 1 okay. The first of the FGX Falcons is on the run up Mountain Straight.
Here we go, Lime Mitch representing Monster Energy, Ford Tickford Racing. Tickford Racing, Ford Performance Racing, whatever it's called these days. They're doing a good job. FGX Falcon up into Griffin's Bend now. Let's see if he goes over the curb, sliding a little bit. He manages to get the fence a little bit, so he's wiped the mirror a little bit there. And now into turn 3 and down through the gears into the cutting. And look at that. So he's managed to get an early apex. Squirm's a little bit coming out, a bit wider on the corner, but that's all right. Now coming up to the first sector split. Let's see what it is. It's going to be a 51.5, so that's 0.3 of a second up on Termo. Let's see if he can continue the run for the rest of the lap.
It was a 51.6 that he did to the first sector to get into the shootout, so looking very, very good on the ascent of the mountain. How is he across the top? We won't know for about another 20 seconds or so by the time he gets to the elbow. Just taking his time getting it online at the dipper. Little bit wide of the wall. He's just giving himself a margin for error here. How does he pull it up for the elbow? On the brakes early. Understeers a little bit coming just through the right-hander just for the elbow. What's it like on the way out? It's very, very good. It's a 26.6 to the second sector. That's a 35.1. He's flying. He's going on track to replicate his time that he used to get into the shootout. He did to the middle sector, he did a 34.9 to get in. So a 35.1 and a 51.5. He's pretty much spot on the money.
Oh, look at that. It had understeered a little, it oversteered a little bit going into the chase. He takes a lot of curb, and now he's coming through turn 22. He's going up into the Murray's corner now, Steve.
Yep, on the run to the final corner now. To get in, it was a 206.9 for Termo. What is it across the line this time? It's a 206.6. He's bettered his marker. The first man to better the qualifying time that they used to get into the shootout. That is a fantastic effort from the Monster Energy Falcon. And we've got him now, I believe, if you want to try and unmute the mic there. Here we go. Mitch, you've bettered your qualifying mark to get into the shootout. You did a 6.9 to get in, and now you've registered a 6.6. Great job.
Thanks. That's quite a PB.
Yeah, it's a very, very good PB. It's so far the only man to improve on the time to get into the shootout. How did it feel across the top? It looked like you were very, very good across the top, actually. You were up by a little bit at Sector 1, but you absolutely creamed it across the top.
Yeah, it felt much more stable than I could have qualifying. So, yeah, it was a lot better.
Fantastic to see, Mitch. You've done a really good job. But how about the sector split? It was up by 1.2 seconds at the second sector. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I looked down on the exit. I was like, whoa.
You're not supposed to look at the clock. Anyway, great job, buddy. Head back to the pits.
Well done to Lime Mitch. He betters his shootout time. And here we go, Mitch Hathaway now coming across the line to start his lap.
Here's another one of the drivers I'd put a little bit of money on, and even though I'm not a gambling man, to get close, if not better, his time to get into the shootout. Now, to get into the shootout, he is, as our timing screen has just flicked away from us here, so to get in, Mitch Hathaway did a 2:06.7, so he actually needs to better his time to have any shot of actually continuing this little bit of a trend of all the drivers basically have gone out pretty much where they are at the moment. So the first of the ZB Commodores, no livery change for this car for this race. A number of the other cars have had some minor livery tweaks. Different lines, all a little bit overcommitted there through the cutting.
He ran well wide of the ideal line there, Steve.
Yeah, he did a big moment through there for Mitch Hathaway, but he's gathered it up, gets right out to the fence, and it's cost him a little bit of time, 2.5 tenths. It's not that far away, but he's got to be very, very good across this section right now.
Here we go. Ultra commitment through here.
Oh, big nervous moment.
There you go.
That car is super nervous as it turned in for McPhillamy Park. It did not want to cooperate whatsoever.
Bit of a lock break there, running down through Skyline into the dipper. Let's see what the second split looks like.
Well, he's got to get through here, through the right-hander. Oh, understeers. Very, very wide understeered. Again, a little bit greedy. The time to the second sector, he's lost a lot of time. It's a 27.4 to the middle sector. So first sector was a 51.7 and a 35.6 to the middle sector. That's actually the slowest of all the middle sectors we've seen. So that is a very, very nervous race car across the top of the mountain, and it shows.
Into the chase now, squirming under brakes a little bit, and now coming in through turn 21, turn 22, and he's coming to Murray's Corner now, Steve.
Yep, under the Armour All Bridge, down to the final corner. It's not going to be a time to set the boards on. In actual fact, the lock up there into the final corner, it'll be probably a high 7, and it's a 7.8. So that's only good enough for P2 provisionally at the minute, and fractionally ahead of the Nissan Altima as well. So he's on the run back up Mountain Straight right now. We'll see if we can get him on the line there. And just waiting for it to come good for us, but doesn't look like we're having much luck with getting him there.
I think it's muted on his hand, but once he unmutes us, we'll be in business.
There he is. I think we've got him now.
Hello, Mitchell Hathaway.
Hello, how are we going?
Good, matey. Look, that car of yours looked very, very nervous across the top. What happened?
Yeah, very ugly, ragdolling that thing around. Yeah, just not very good. Yeah, understeer, oversteer everywhere, so we're going to have to work on a good race car for next week, and yeah, look forward to it. Well, just not my best effort tonight. Well, the best part is you've got a week to worry about it, mate, so sit down, have a cold one, and watch the second half of the shootout. But yeah, you're right, you've got some work to do there. Thanks,
well done
boys.
to Mitch Hathaway.
Brendan Ross now on the clock. Second of the FCR Motorsport cars contesting the race. Looks pretty neat through turn 1 there, Hans.
Yeah, it's actually the best of the cars we've seen through Hell Corner so far, I reckon. So he's up for a chance in the first split here. Now up the run, up Mountain Straight. Very steep straight here. And down through the plunge into Griffin's Bend. Late braking. Here we go. Brendan Ross. He's known for being a little bit out of control on his qualifying laps, and he's great to watch. Now let's see what sort of line he takes into the cutting.
Everyone taking some very different lines through the cutting. A couple of drivers narrowing it up, but that was very, very good from Brendan Ross. It looked like it was spot on the money.
Spot on, absolutely clean. Clean as a whistle. Brendan Ross, here we go. Gets the wall a little bit, but is it up? No, it's not. Only tiny margin, so about 1.2 tenths of a second.
Just about what he did in the qualifying to get in. A 51.625 to get in. It was a 51.651 across the top, so again, another one of the drivers looking set to try and match their qualifying time to get into the shootout. Brendan Ross's time to get in was a 2:06.492. So if he can match that, he will provisionally go ahead of Lime Mitch here.
Here we go, Brendan Ross on maximum attack. He's pushing. He's using every millimetre of road. Now out through Forest Elbow. He's lost a bit of time there, but let's see if he can make it up.
Well, down Mountain Straight, his time to the middle sector was a 35.2 in the middle sector, and he actually did a 34.8 in the middle sector in qualifying. So he has lost a little bit of time, so needs to pick it up a little bit here. But even if he just stays where he is, it'll still be provisionally P2 with 4 runners to go. So that will then mean at worst place he'll be on the 3rd row for next week's race. Very, very close to dropping 2 tyres in the grass there. Now down to the final corner. Oh, plenty of drivers locking up there, but it's not costing them a lot. Very, very wiggly on the oversteer on the exit, and he ends up P2 with a 2:07 flat. So a little bit off what his time was to get into the shootout, but nonetheless looked pretty good. Rossi's on the line with us now. Brennan, it wasn't a bad lap, but probably a little bit left on the table there, do you think?
Oh, definitely a lot left there, but probably the most nervous and excited lap I've done all session. So I'm just glad that I kept it clean and didn't put it in a wall.
Yeah, that's the one thing to do in the shootout. You don't want to bin your lap. You look pretty good to the first sector split, but probably just a couple of small moments over the top, I'd imagine.
Probably just more so trying to keep it off the wall. I wanted to push, but just didn't want to be the first person to put it in a wall. So definitely a lot left there, but probably the best time I could do just on one lap flying.
Well, job well done, mate. P2 currently at the minute with 4 runners to go. Take a breathe up. We're watching Lewis Wedding go up the mountain in the Honda-inspired Repsol liveried FGX Falcon. And he actually must have got on the outlap very, very quickly because he was already partway up Mountain Straight when we picked him up. So he wasn't wasting any time, Hans, in terms of getting on the run.
Sorry, Steve, I was about to make the same comment that he's got on with it on the outlap. And let's see
Bang.
what he's got. He's up 0.4 of a second, and an awesome split from Lewis Wedding, 51.136. And he's always on the slide. He almost got the fence there. He didn't quite get it. Now he's up through McPhillamy Park, and he's using every millimetre of road, bit of the curb, now through Skyline, Brock Skyline, famous part of the circuit, down. So you spend 2/3 of the lap climbing the mountain, and the last third actually going down. So in through the dipper, he's commitment. He's got 100%, 110% right now. 11/10, squeezing the lemon. And he's looking really good into Forest Elbow so far.
He actually bettered his PB1, his split through PB1 by 1/10 of a second. It was a 51.1 to a 51.2 through the first sector, and the number out of the second split is very, very impressive for Lewis Wedding. It's a 35.0 to the middle sector, and it was a 34.6. So looking set to be pretty close to his qualifying time, which was a 2:06 flat to get into the shootout. Bit of curb through the chase. Car looks pretty settled through this part of the circuit, but he did have a lot of exit oversteer across the top, so he's going to be very, very concerned about that, I'd imagine. He'll probably rub it off when we get him on the line in a minute. Very, very loose out of the final corner, and it's a 6.2, and he provisionally goes to the top. So great job from Lewis Wedding there, and we've dialed him up across on the last few corners there.
We've G'd him up for sure.
We've G'd him up for sure now.
6.278 for Lewis Wedding. Lewis, how did that feel, mate?
That was good for about 3/4 of the lap, and then suddenly it pulled up at the chase a lot better than what I thought it would, and I didn't carry enough speed, and then had a big slide coming out of the final corner, which cost me time. It's a bit of a shame. I could have had a 5, but overall pretty happy with that lap considering the complete lack of practice I've done.
Yeah. And you're a little bit nervous across the top. There was a few moments where the car just jumped sideways on you, but you managed to keep it under control, which was great to see. But got a bit of time now to just pull up and watch the last of the heavy hitters start to lay down their laps. Job well done, mate.
Cheers, mates, and hopefully we can have a clean race next week.
Absolutely. Well, Lewis was the first of the heavy hitters, and now here's the second one. Phil Boak, PBF Race Engineering, VF Commodore, current points leader in Super 2.
Got into the shootout with a 2-minute 5.356. Let's see if he can better that one. And he uses all the curb, gets up a little bit of dirt there on the exit of Hell Corner, and now he's making the run up Mountain Straight. First of the PBF Race Engineering Commodores in number 015.
Well, the sector splits you want to keep your eye out for here. He did a 51.0 to the first sector, a 34.7 in the middle, and a 39.5 at the end. So they're the numbers that we're going to look for the current points leader to see what he can do about not only his teammate, but about a very rampaging, hard-charging Will Devonish as well. So Devonish, we know, was lightning on the run up the mountain and across the top.
Oh, up through Silman Park, and he's 2.5 tenths down on, who are we talking about? He's 2.5 tenths down on Lewis Weddy. Too much excitement for this young commentator here. But Phil Boak, he's using every millimetre of road and then some, and he's wiping the car on the fence a little bit. Not too much damage though, so he's off and running again. Down through the skyline, and ultra commitment through there, in through the dipper.
Here he comes, out of the dipper, on the run down to Forest Elbow. So he did a 51.3 to the middle, to the first sector, so a little bit slower than he wanted to. That rub on the wall has probably cost him, but look at the split coming out of that. Across the top, he was absolutely brilliant, and he now finds himself almost a tenth up on Wedding after coming out top. Have a look at the split across the top. It was a 34.6, and that's quicker. That's a purple sector, Tom. It's quicker than what he managed in the qualifying session to get in, so really hooked up across the top of the mountain.
So he's now coming into the chase. Oh, he's bowled it wide.
Oh, no.
So that's all. It's all gone wrong for Phil Boak at the chase.
He's got to finish the lap here, though. He's got to put a time on the board because he's going to start somewhere, but he's thrown it away at the chase. He got a fantastic exit, just probably tried to get a little bit too late on the brakes, but it's going to be a 7. And all that hard work has now resulted in a 7.6. So, as we said, Hans, the magnitude of mistakes. He's going to be filthy with himself. Well, that's what he is in Discord in the name anyway. And he's
I don't think he's going to be laughing about that.
No, he's certainly not going to be.
Lap, unfortunately, but Phil, not ideal at the chase there, mate.
No, I missed the gear. I plucked the gear and it didn't grab. So it just made me run a bit deep. Well, disappointing because I think I was on there. I would have got it.
Yeah, you were tracking like you were going to be matching Lewis's time after the Sector 2 split, but the severity of mistakes, they punish in this place, don't they?
Yeah, it has, but that's what it is. You either have a full crack or
go home.
Yeah, that's it. So,
well done, Phil. Hopefully, better luck for the race, mate.
Thanks, mate. Thanks, boys.
His teammate now crosses the line to start his ascension of the mountain and then the rapid descent from the top. Brenton Foley, reigning Super 2 champ, number 1 on the car, out of Hell Corner, up Mountain Straight. Car looked pretty solid there. Now, as I said earlier in the day, this man was on for a 4, about a 4.5 actually, during ARW silly season practice at this circuit. Has he got it in him? I'm not 100% sure. To get into the shootout, he managed to...
sliding up over the curb there in the Griffin's Bend.
To get into the shootout, he was a 205 flat. So he's got it in him. He's got it in the car, but a little slide like that might be costly. A little bit nervous on the exit there of the cutting as well. Getting it right out to the wall. Maximum usage of road. Runs it up to the wall. Sector 1 split. Very, very good. 50.9 matches what Devonish did in the qualifying session to get in. The PBF Engineering Commodore is looking very good. How's it across the top? Little bit offline at the run through McPhillamy Park, but looks okay. This is where he had the issue in the practice in the qualifying session where he lost it. Looks all right. 2 wheels in the air. Get him back on the deck. Get back on the power. Up the gears. Feed it back 1 gear. Get it online for the elbow. Little bit of smoke, but he's fed it quite nicely. How's the sector split as he comes out of here? Look at the number. It's a 7/10 of a second advantage at the second sector split. Foley is flying, Hans.
Brenton Foley on maximum attack. He's missed a 100%, 110%. He's squeezing 11 tenths out of that lemon. And here we go, on the run into the chase now. Big deep breath under brakes. Here we go.
He is 3/10 of a second up on the time he used to get into the shootout. He did a 50.7 to get in the first sector, a 34.8 in the middle, and he's looking like he's going to be very, very close to a 4. It's all about these last couple of corners. Little pinch the brake. Won't cost him. Little bit of oversteer on the exit. It's a 4.9. So Foley gets the 4 that he wanted. It's not as quick as Devonish, but it's going to be tough for Devonish to chase.
Brenton Foley on the line. How'd that go, mate?
Pretty happy. I had the win it or bin it mentality. I was 100% going for it. It was either going to be low 5 or in the fence. A little bit disappointed. I reckon I cost myself 2 tenths right at the end on the exit of the last corner with that slide. But overall, I'm pretty happy that I got into the 4s in the shootout.
Well, you're aiming at a 4 in the ARW silly season race that we had about a week and a half ago, mate. And if it wasn't for the server coming off, then you would have got that. But you're happy you've got it now?
Definitely. I did a couple of them in practice, but it definitely means a lot more to be able to do it in the shootout.
Purple in all sectors, mate. You've got one more driver one more car to see off. It's Will Devonish, and job well done, mate. You're on the front row regardless of what happens.
Thanks very much. It's going to be tight. I know he can definitely. I reckon he can probably go faster than what he did in qualifying, so it's going to be really close.
All right, mate. You've got the best seat in the house. Here he is on screen. Car number 15, Will Devonish, ZB Commodore, CRE Motorsport, CRE Electrical, member of the JP Sim Shed, and here we go. 6.2 kilometres of the mountain awaits. Can he topple the time of Brenton Foley? A 2:04.9. He did a 2:04.814 to get into the shootout. Hans, he's going to have to be absolutely super.
The challenge that Brenton Foley has laid down looks as big as the mountain that he's about to try and tame right now. Will Devonish, he's coming up Mountain Straight and he's making his way into Griffin's Band, turn 2.
Looks online, looks pretty good. No slide like what Foley had. Just uses just a fraction of curb and not much more. Tram tracks now. Up through the cutting. Oh, big moment. Big moment for Devonish. Back end got away. That's it. Game over. He's got to keep going, though. He's got to put a time on the board. But, oh, dear. He will be kicking himself after that one. And it's going to be a 53.7. So that's the slowest of all the Sector 1 splits. But he's going to keep pressing on to see what he can do. That was a big moment for Will Devonish. Just snatched the break on the way in to the cutting. He gathered it up, though, kept it out of the fence, but at this stage it looks like he's going to set to put a time probably somewhere towards Zach Ross at this rate, I'd imagine, if it keeps going at this pace.
Yeah, for sure. But he's got a lot of speed on board, and he's got to press on because there's some slower times. He needs to try and get up through the field as much as he can, try to minimise his losses here. And let's see what the second sector split is.
Oh dear.
So, that's going to put him in probably 9th at the moment.
Yeah, he's going to be on the back row on the top 10 or the row 5 with Greg Nangle. It depends on what he does down here at the chase, but this has kind of taken the sting out of this lap, hasn't it, Hans? It's we were looking forward to see what he could do, and unfortunately, again, the mistakes bite. And when they bite hard at this place. We saw Phil Boak run deep at the chase. Devonish has made a mistake too. So 2 of the championship contenders have found trouble here. Boak's ended up P5, and it looks like Devonish is going to end up about P9, judging on our numbers. And actual fact, it's worse than that. It's actually the 10th. So he's gone from being the last man out to the bottom of the top 10 pile. So he is not going to be pleased with that. And it looks like we're getting him here. And Will, have you got us at the moment?
I'm here.
Mate, it's a bit of a moment there for you at the cutting. It kind of took the sting out of the lap for us from the commentator's point of view, but clearly what could have been.
Yeah, coming into the cutting, unfortunately the car just plonked into first instead of second, so back end came out.
Well, that'll do it. We thought it might have been a snatch break, but coming down one too many gears will do it as well. But the thing is, you've got pace. The lap you're set to get into the shootout was quicker than the one that Foley managed to take the pole, but you definitely have got some speed for a week's time.
Yeah, put some fuel in the car. It's a lot nicer than a light car, actually, so I'm confident for the race.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing what you can do next week, mate. Commiserations on the lap that could have been, but nonetheless, you made the top 10. It's an achievement in itself.
Thank you.
Well, that is it for the qualifying session and the top 10 shootout. So, Hans, not the I guess the culmination that we were kind of expecting at the end of all of that.
I guess it's somewhat of an anticlimax, but it took a little bit of the sting out of the commentary box as well, didn't it? But we were looking to see if Will Devonish could bring something to the table, but unfortunately he's gone backwards. So, but remember, he did get into the shootout with a 2-minute 4.81, so he's got pace on board the CRE Electrical Commodore. but unfortunately it wasn't his day today. So he's gone from provisional pole to 10th place, and pole position in the top 10 shootout goes to Brenton Foley.
Yep, so indeed you are right. The top 10 for the night. So Brenton Foley started the shootout. There he is on screen there. Started the shootout. The ninth man out. He ends up with the pole, the only man in the 204s. Lewis Wedding, well, we did say that he would possibly be up the pointy end. He was one of the heavy hitters. He ends up as P2 after all of that. Lime Mitch, goes to be said, he went out very, very early in that shootout, fourth car out of the shootout, and is actually on the second row of the grid. So it just goes to show you what happens if you just keep going. You just keep setting a lap time if the guys fall off behind you. Brendan Ross will be happy with his starting position of P4 for the race next week. He's had a little bit of a torrid time in some of the other series, but he's starting to get himself back on track, which is great to see. Championship leader Phil Boak, he's out of P5. Mitch Hathaway in 6th. Termo, the sole Nissan, starts out of 7th. Zach Ross, the only Mustang in the shootout, is out of P8. Greg Nangle, good to see Greg on his return in a supercars competition. He's out of P9. And then P10, Will Devonish, unfortunately, not being able to mimic the lap that he needed to do. And we've actually just seen a pretty hilarious picture just dropped off here by Brendan Ross in the commentary box.
We'll try and get it on screen because I think it's pretty accurate. But here we go, lookalikes. Here we go. We've got Greg Nangle. I've got to pad a little bit before we get the picture up. Stephen, are we going to get the picture up? Because I think it's very appropriate to get it up there. It looks good.
Yeah, I'm going to do my best to see if I can put this up. But let's just, while we see if we can sort that out, let's just reflect on our top 3 for a moment here. So we've got our top 3 in. So we've got, we actually got 2 of our top 3. We've got Brenton Foley and Lewis Wedding, the 2 protagonists that will start on the front row. So let's turn to Brenton Foley here. So Brenton, you're the only man to get into the under the 2-minute 5 barrier that time around, but all attention now turns to the race in a week's time.
Yeah, I've got to focus on better race setup now. The last couple of nights has been all qualifying setup. It's been, I said it when practice started, it was really 50 minutes purely just to go fast. I normally do race runs and things like that. But yeah, looking forward to it. Just got to make sure we set up mistakes and
briefly on the screen, but I'll come back to that in a minute. Lewis, you're starting on the front row alongside a very, very fast Commodore in Brenton Foley, probably one of the classes of the field in this season. What are your thoughts going into the race next week?
Well, for me, it's going to be a bit of an unknown. I haven't done too much supercar driving throughout the year. I may have driven under a different name throughout the season, but yeah, I haven't done too much running. Only running I've done prior to this, I think last week I did, maybe 5 laps to make sure the track worked, and then I was on Glenn Miles' practice server for 20 minutes before I had to do some other stuff. So it's going to be interesting. And even then, I had to do some last minute changes in the qualifying session to obviously find some time. And then when the server switched over, I forgot to save them, so I had to wing it for the shootout, which turned out okay, but there's still pace in it. And if I do get some time over the weekend to set some practice in, I think I can set some reasonable lap times. I think if I'd have put it all together, looking at my sector times from live races, I could have done a mid-5, and even then I still think there's a bit more time in it. But obviously now it's next week, it's race time. And I think the most important thing is just going to be keeping it out of the barrier and keeping the car on 4 wheels, because it's quite easy to, as we saw with Greg, get on 2 wheels, and it's very easy to bin it around here. So
absolutely,
just keep all 4 wheels pointing in the right direction and not too much panel damage. I'll be happy with the top 5, because obviously you've got Brenton Foley there. Boak will come through, as will, and then of course you've got the unknown as well. So hopefully I can just keep it pointing straight, and wherever I finish, I finish.
Absolutely. Good. Well said. And you were just talking about Greg Nangle before. We're going to pull this up here. You can see it there. It is the picture from the Greg Nangle Appreciation Society at the top of the mountain. And
so he's got plenty of fans up there. He's just known as a very high risk stunt driver. It's just fantastic to see. Here is Greg Nangle. Here he is in his Toyota Commodore. It is fantastic. The 70 series Toyota Opel door looking great, and he's giving us the salute as well. And we salute you, Greg, on a fantastic lap. There we go. Hot off the press from Brennan Ross. We give the hat tip to Brennan Ross on that one. He's fresh off the shootout, and he managed to get that one. So good stuff. We're having a bit of a laugh at it.
Yep, well done, Rossi. Well spotted, and the Greg Nangle Appreciation Society will be out in full force at that section of the mountain in a week's time. Hans, we'll end it there. It's qualifying night is done and dusted. We will see all of you viewers in a week's time for the 49-lap race, the 300-kilometre race around Mount Panorama. My name's Steve DeVries. I've been joined by Hans Brunswick. As always, please drive safely. See you in a week. Bye for now.